How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. This is the point of the program where some of you get a little mad at me for telling you the truth that you don't want to hear, but you need to know the truth because you need to be the most informed person in your circle of friends. And I think truth over tribe matters greatly. And we have new economic data, and the new economic data should give you some pause because what I've been telling you is going to happen is happening. And the number of people who have, and in fact, I've made sure to ping many of them on social media. So when are you going to admit you were wrong? When are you going to admit you were wrong? I was like, not only was I not wrong, but exactly what I told you would happen has happened. It was Jesus, and I'm not comparing myself to Jesus really, but he's the one with the famous quote, a prophet's not welcome in his hometown. And occasionally you got to know things that are true that shatter preconceived tribal political spin. And so we have to spend just a few moments here talking about the new data so that you're the most informed person in your circle of friends and you understand what's happening. This is from the Financial Times. U.S. wholesale prices jumped in July, rising 3.3% from a year earlier in the latest signal that President Donald Trump's tariffs are seeping into the U.S. economy. The rise in the producer price index, which tracks what domestic U.S. producers charge for their goods and services, was the biggest jump since February. The reading from the Bureau of Labor Statistics was well above June's 2.4% annual gain and the 2.5% rise expected by economists polled by Bloomberg. The figures suggest that despite muted inflation to date in consumer prices, the levies the president has imposed on U.S. trading partners are driving an increase in prices further up the supply chain. So let's talk about this. We had the consumer price index day before yesterday. The consumer price index was good. Inflation was lower than expected in markets, and the Dow skyrocketed. The market skyrocketed. Consumer price index is what consumers pay. The producer price index is what the producers of the goods and services pay at wholesale. I was driving to Reynolds, Lake Oconee the other day for dinner on Tuesday. It's a resort out in the middle of nowhere, Lake Oconee, Georgia, and there's a wholesale tree farm that I passed. The wholesale tree farm does not sell to you and me, the consumer. I can't show up and buy a crepe myrtle or a magnolia or a Christmas tree from the wholesale tree farm. A company will go to the wholesale tree farm, and instead of buying one crepe myrtle, they buy 50. And they'll plant them in neighborhoods or urban development, or if they're building your house, or they're a commercial developer, it goes into landscaping. I played you the audio the other day of the guy in Montana, the knife maker, who is American-owned, makes American knives. And he said if you buy American, you won't pay the tariff. And now he's realizing that one of the machines he needs to make his knives has gone up $100,000 in price because the parts required for the machine, some of them are made abroad. And they go into a machine that's made in the United States, that's an American-owned company. But because some of the parts of the machine aren't made in the United States, the part price gets passed on to the business that's buying the machine. And so then he, the wholesaler of the machines, is going to have to raise prices on his knives or cut into his profits. The wholesale price affects the people who make your goods. The consumer price affects your price. And the consumer price right now has been pretty good. However, as I said on Tuesday, part of that is energy prices have gone down. Oil and gas prices have gone down so much, it's offset a lot of other prices. So, for example, grocery prices have gone down 0.1% year over year, even though banana prices are now the highest price they've been in decades. There are no bananas grown for commercial consumption in the United States. You got to import all the bananas that we buy at grocery stores. Come from another country. They all have tariffs on them. Banana prices are now the highest they've been in years. Coffee prices, too, the highest they've been in years. But meat prices have gone down. And a lot of domestic produce prices have gone down because gas prices have gone down so much that it's cheaper to harvest, it's cheaper to butcher, it's cheaper to transport, and you're getting savings there. Likewise, and this gets to the wholesale price index today, the highest it's been in years, since like 2021, 2022. What it tells us is that your prices haven't gone up much, except in furniture, toys, and clothing, the areas that are most impacted by imports. What it tells us is that the manufacturers haven't passed on the cost to you. That's the God's honest truth. The manufacturers have not been passing the cost on to you. They've been eating the cost. Now, that actually should bother you to a degree. You can say, well, they're making a lot of money, except here's part of the problem. When companies eat the cost of the tariffs, the companies reduce wages, or they don't give wage hikes, so wages get stagnant. They don't make as much in profit, so their long-term earnings go down. So you're either going to pay now or you're going to pay in retirement. Companies are either going to eat the costs and grow more slowly, and wages are going to grow more slowly, or you're going to pay higher prices. The cost has to come from somewhere. We can't make the dollars up out of the air, y'all. You understand this? That's Democrat math. You can't make the money up. So companies are paying more for the stuff they're buying to make you the stuff you buy. Right now, what the companies are doing is when they're paying more, they're not jacking up the price. They're just eating it. So instead of making $100 in profit, they're making $80 in profit. That $80 in profit long-term is $20 less to raise the wages of their employees, is $20 less to invest, is $20 less to pass on to shareholders in terms of a dividend. So that's going to affect the stock value. That's going to affect your 401k. So either they're going to pass the cost on to you and you're going to pay higher prices now, or in the future, when you retire, your stock portfolio is not going to have grown as much. And over time, your wages will not have gone up as much as they could have. The business anecdotes out there are matching the spreadsheet. Some retailers say demand is still decent. Customers are switching brands. They're not quitting purchases. In fact, there's also a story in the Financial Times about Cincinnati, Ohio, Jungle Gym's international market in Cincinnati. People are still going gangbusters shopping there. Spending habits do not suggest, even though people say they're anxious about the economy, spending habits haven't changed there. Jungle Gyms, I've never been to this place. I'm curious about it, but their sales are still through the roof. Consumers aren't feeling the prices passed along to them, so they're still spending a lot. But producers are feeling the price, and so it's hurting them. Phase one is where we're living right now in the rule on tariffs. This is Economics 101. They compress their margins, they delay price hikes, and they hope the policy environment stabilizes. Well, the policy environment is stabilized, and many of them thought the policy environment meant Donald Trump would get these free trade agreements and tariffs would go back to zero. Instead, it turns out tariffs are at minimum 10%. So phase two is what we're now starting to see. Profit pressure forces pass through. The squeeze shows up at the cash register on wage growth as employers get stingier and don't give better pay raises. If the tariffs persist into the year end without offsetting relief, you're going to get broader consumer price increases. And then what happens is what we're already starting to see. Remember, I told you this the other day, that domestic producers are starting to raise prices because as those impacted by tariffs raise prices, the domestic producers know they can raise prices a little less than what the tariffs are raising prices as, and they can make more money. So the domestic guys, the steel and aluminum producers, are beginning to raise their prices on steel and aluminum because the imported aluminum and steel are so much more expensive now. They can make the domestic stuff more expensive and still be less, and they make more money. You can't repeal arithmetic and basic rules of economics. If Washington wants to hold the line on prices, it's got to target tariff relief where supply chains have no short-term substitutes. Target China. Target our enemies. Don't target every nation. Target China. Target for national defense. I'm not opposed to targeting tariffs for national defense. Force the repatriation of the supply lines home. Use tariffs there. Or you got to offset measures that expand the supply chain faster. Engage in port upgrades to get stuff here quicker. Accelerate the permitting process. Do time-limited tax relief on strategic inputs so firms aren't asked to do more with less. Lower prices on the businesses to offset. What the president has done has been very, 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 very smart. He has focused on cutting energy prices. The Democrats are furious with energy prices because gas prices are going down. I've got a Yukon Denali, and it uses a lot of gas. And I was paying $90 to fill up my car. Then I was paying $80 to fill up my car. I filled up my car last night. It was $70. So over the course of Donald Trump being in office from when Joe Biden left office, I'm now saving $20 filling up my car. Now, do the math and translate that to the harvester, translate that to the combine, translate that to the tractor trailer hauling cows to the slaughterhouse, translate that on the trucks going from the slaughterhouses and the harvest companies to the grocery store with the vegetables and the meats. They're saving money on gas, and that's coming to you and me. And Donald Trump cutting prices by expressing his desire to drill as much as possible has been fantastic for the economy. And, there's the irony here. If the tariffs weren't having the impact, our economy would be exploding. Donald Trump said he wanted 3 or 4% growth. We would be having 3 to 4 to 5% growth if we didn't have the tariffs weighing things down right now. The problem has been they're not targeted. Now, here's where all of this heads, just so you know. There's a point to this. It's not, notice I've been sparing of the president. I'm just talking about this particular policy. When the Federal Reserve meets to consider cutting interest rates, they don't look at the core consumer price index. That's the consumer price index minus groceries and gas. They don't look at the wholesale energy or wholesale price index, the producer price index. They look at combined data from the two that will come out next week. And it shows how the producer price index and the consumer price index are working together. Is it causing costs to go up? And the wholesale price index is up so much that, yes, it's going to translate into inflation's going up. The tariff data is starting to show that inflation is going up. Now, here's the caveat. It's not really inflation. We treat it as inflation because its price is going up. Here's the good thing for Donald Trump in this. When a tariff raises a price by 20%, the price goes up 20%, and then it doesn't go up anymore. So tariffs are a one-time price increase. They're slow to roll out from companies that have been eating the cost, and now they're going to roll them out to you and me, and so our costs are going to trickle up. But that's not really inflationary. They're just slowly adjusting it up to the top line that the tariffs affect. Once the tariffs are in full effect and we're eating the costs, there's no more inflation from tariffs. The prices have gone up. They become fixed. So what the Federal Reserve now has to do is look at the data that comes out of the next week and decide, is this really inflation or is this tariff-based inflation? If it's tariff-based inflation, they can back it out and see what actual inflation's doing. And the Federal Reserve is already starting to talk about they are going to cut rates in September. The question is how much. Initially, there was a thinking that they would cut it by a 50 basis points, that is 0.5%. But given the data today, and this is why the markets are responding the way they are, the markets were thinking we get a 0.5 percentage point cut in the Federal Reserve's interest rates. Odds are with the data today, it's going to be a 0.25%, 25 basis points. Because, well, there's inflation. It's from tariffs, yes, but prices are going up. And corporations are already telling anyone who will listen that prices are about to be passed on to you. They're not going to eat the cost anymore because tariffs are permanent. They were willing to eat the costs if tariffs were temporary, but since tariffs are permanent, they're no longer going to eat the costs. And in the process of eating the costs, they haven't raised wages. In the process of eating the costs, they haven't made investments. In the process of eating the costs, they haven't grown their bottom line. So companies have been stagnant, and that's going to affect us long term. until the costs start passing on to us. This is basic economics. It's what I've been warning you would happen. I knew it was going to happen. Some of you have accused me of being smug or arrogant for telling you. And no, my point is just, I know I'm not an economist, but I know basic economics. I've read enough books. I've taken enough classes. This is always what happens with tariffs. And all the people telling you this wasn't going to happen have been lying to you because they didn't want to get on the bad side of the president who likes tariffs. I'm not willing to lie to you, even if it gets me on your bad side. I'm here to tell you the truth, and that's the truth. All right, back to the phones we go here. Let's go to Dave. You're going to be up next. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric.
Dave,
how you doing?
Hey, good. What's going on?
Well, I've been in HR for 25 years in big corporations in Atlanta, and so I understand the cultural issue of what I'm bringing up. But I'm curious as to if you foresee them adding hate crimes to these incidents that occurred in Cincinnati, because I don't agree with the hate philosophy in the judicial process, but if it's there, these 6 people that attacked the 2 white people should have hate crimes attached to their charges, and I'm just curious if you think that might happen.
So my guess is no, because in reading as much as I can about what happened in Cincinnati, the precipitating event was one of the people who got beat up, referring to the non-white youths who attacked them by the N-word before getting attacked, and since the N-word was used, that's and it's gotten now. Here's the problem. Is that there were more than 2 people who were attacked. There were a bunch of people who were attacked. But the guy who was first attacked had referred to these kids by the N-word, and they beat that guy up. But the problem is it went into this frenzy, and they started beating up a whole lot of other people. People were coming to intervene to help the guy got beat up. A lady got, she's the one who's been on TV, was attacked for trying to stop the fight, and a bunch of other people in the process. But because the triggering event was the N-word, they probably won't be charged with hate crimes. So, yeah, I know we probably haven't heard that, but yeah, that got downplayed by a lot of people. But yeah, the N-word was involved as a precipitating event. Now, I got to tell you, I got to move on and tell you about Old Glory Bank. OldGloryBank.com/Eric is the website to go to. It's my bank. You can go to Old Glory Bank. You can get a checking account, a savings account. If you're a business, get a business account. They're a bank that was set up because of the debanking trends by conservatives to protect conservatives because they value your freedoms. And they would love to bank with you. If you're looking for an online bank, you can deposit cash at this online bank, unlike many of them. You go to oldglorybank.com/Eric. It takes less than 8 minutes to fill out your account. I did my account online. Got a checking and a savings account. You can too. They do CDs and mortgages and car loans. They're a regular bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Go to oldglorybank.com/ERICK today. Hi there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Man who threw a sandwich at law enforcement has been arrested in Washington, D.C., and it turns out it was a DOJ employee. Attorney General Pam Bondi has said just a short time ago that a Justice Department employee has been fired after being arrested for throwing a sandwich at federal law enforcement officers on Sunday evening. In court documents Wednesday, police allege Sean Charles Dunn approached law enforcement, including Metro Transit Police and U.S. Customs officers, began yelling obscenities and calling them fascists, and then threw a sandwich at one of the officers and was charged with assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers. After his arrest, he told officers, "I did it. I threw a sandwich." He's an international affairs specialist in the criminal division of the Department of Justice, 37 years old, and lives in D.C. Wow. Wow. All right, to the phones. Tom, you're going to be up next. Welcome. Tom? Well, I don't know what happened to Tom, but that's okay, because I want to go back to the Tom who called yesterday. Yesterday, we had a listener. I think it was Tom who called yesterday, different Tom. And he said his friend who's a liberal keeps telling him Republicans aren't serious about nonpartisan redistricting because they killed the For the People Act of 2019, H.R. 1. That was the Democrats' legislation, the For the People Act. When when the Democrats swept back in 2018 and 2019, the H.R. 1 is always a messaging piece of legislation. You have to understand that. H.R. 1 has become the very first piece of legislation filed in the House of Representatives, and it is always messaging. 1 year with Republicans, it was illegal immigration. 1 year it was energy. With the Democrats, it's been campaign finance reform 1 year, and now it's been the For the People Act. And a lot of Democrats say, see, in 2019, Democrats, well, they were willing. They were willing. They wanted to do bipartisan reform. They were willing to do it. But the Republicans, they wouldn't go along with it. Well, here's the problem. It wasn't actually a real thing. It was a symbolic effort of partisan spin that a lot of people fell for. The For the People Act, what it ultimately did was engage in partisan gerrymandering that actually would have protected Democrats. So on gerrymandering, let me read you the Wikipedia summation because there's a sleight of hand here. The bill would attempt to thwart gerrymandering by requiring states to use independent commissions to draw congressional district lines, except in states with only one congressional district. Partisan gerrymandering, creating a map that unduly favors or disfavors one political party over another, would be prohibited. The legislation would require each commission to have 15 members, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and 5 independents, and would require proposed maps to achieve a majority vote to be accepted, with at least one vote in support from a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent. The bill would require the commission to draw congressional districts on a 5-part criteria: population equality, compliance with the Voting Rights Act, compliance with additional racial requirements, no retrogression in dilution of minority electoral influence, including in coalitions with other voters, respect for political subdivisions and communities of interest, and no undue advantage for any party. Now, here's the thing you got to know. Is the way the California Democrats have gamed the California Redistricting Commission is to stack the independents with Democrats who became independents. So they still favor the Democrats in California. It's one of the big complaints about the way the California Commission works is that a lot of the supposed Republican partisans are actually Democrats. They're limited in what they can do because of how they have to redistrict, but there's a bias there. It's not purely nonpartisan. But let's go back to this legislation. Compliance with the Voting Rights Act and compliance with other racial requirements, no retrogression. In states that have to comply with the Voting Rights Act right now, that's a lot of southern states, the Confederacy and the Civil War. Every Republican state in the South, Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and we can even throw in Virginia there. They all have to start with at least one majority-minority district. They're required to under the Voting Rights Act. And those majority-minority districts are Democratic districts. So it's a very clever sleight of hand by the Democrats to say, we want no partisan gerrymandering, but you've got to not allow retrogression of the existing majority-minority districts, which means you have to start with one, at least one or two in some cases, gerrymandered districts. In the state of Georgia, there are three specifically gerrymandered for Democrat districts. And according to what the Democrats want, Georgia would have to start guaranteeing 3 Democrats get elected. And then do no gerrymander those districts, and then don't do any gerrymandering. That's why Republicans opposed it. Because the Democrats wanted to insist that you cannot, if you have a majority-minority district, which is a Democratic stronghold, that's the way they're drawn, you can't get rid of it. And the Republicans were like, this isn't fair. You guys literally would automatically start off with guaranteed districts, and the Republicans wouldn't. And the Democrats said it's that or nothing. The reason nonpartisan gerrymandering nonpartisan redistricting favors Republicans is because you would get rid of those required gerrymandered districts that the Democrats rely on to win in the South. Democrats are allowed unfettered redistricting. Democrats can literally carve up Massachusetts or Illinois or California or Oregon or Washington any which way they want. In Massachusetts, 538, Nate Silver's old site, showed that if you actually did nonpartisan redistricting, the Republicans would have a seat in Congress for Massachusetts. But the Democrats have drawn districts so convoluted to ensure that doesn't happen. The Democrats of Massachusetts do not want nonpartisan redistricting because they would lose seats. The Democrats in Illinois do not want nonpartisan redistricting. They've been able to carve up the state of Illinois where 3 Republicans are in Congress. There are 17 seats and only 3 Republicans get elected. But the Republicans win about 47% of the total vote in Illinois every year, which means they should be able to get more congressional districts. But the Democrats ensure they can't through redistricting. It's all a lie when the Democrats say that they want these independent districts and Democrats believe in good governance. It's all a lie. And the lie is premised on the regressive provisions of the Voting Rights Act that required that southern states, still combating Jim Crow and the like, were required to draw districts that were majority-minority, and those majority-minority districts became Democratic strongholds over time. As the black voters of America became identified with the Democratic Party, you draw a majority-minority district in the South, you're guaranteed to have a Democratic stronghold. The irony is this. When Newt Gingrich and the Republican Revolution took over in the 1990s, it was the majority-minority districts that allowed the Republicans to take over. Because what did they do? They made a majority-minority district or two, and they put all the Democrats in it, and that freed up the rest of the state for the Republicans. That's how the Republicans took over in the 90s, is the majority-minority districts became a trap for the Democrats. Now the Democrats actually think that in a lot of the states, like Georgia, for example, which has been slowly demographically moving to the Democratic Party side, or Texas, the Democrats are convinced any day now they'll take Texas, that those you build those majority-minority districts, you lock them in place, you guarantee the Democrats out of the gate get several seats, and that when you draw all the other districts around them using the nonpartisan redistricting, well, those districts would still technically be gerrymandered because you're starting with the framework of gerrymandered districts. You can't get around them. You can't get around the guaranteed Democratic districts. In other words, don't believe the Democrats. Again, I go back to 538, but it's not just 538. After the show yesterday, a friend of mine in Washington pointed out that National Journal did the same thing. National Journal, which is the big political digest in D.C., they did the same thing 538 did, and they came to the same conclusion, that if you just did nonpartisan redistricting in the country, the Democratic states are so partisan gerrymandered, Republicans would gain more seats. Republicans could gain up to 50 seats in the House of Representatives if gerrymandering went away. 50 seats. Democrats would pick up some, but it would net Republicans 50 more seats in the House because of the redistricting in Rhode Island, because of redistricting in a lot of the New England states would be that way. So Massachusetts, Connecticut is another state. Illinois is another state that all of these states, California as well, Washington and Oregon, even Hawaii, Republicans could make gains in Hawaii. New York is a great example of it. In New York, Republicans would pick up seats. In Vermont, Republicans could pick up seats. In Delaware, Republicans could pick up seats. All if you got rid of gerrymandering, which is why the Democrats say they want to do it, but they throw in this language voters don't understand. Like when Tom called yesterday, his friend was insistent. If Republicans just went along with this. Now, the For the People Act also did other stuff. It laid the legal basis for D.C. to become a state. It allowed voter registration for 16-year-olds. It banned voter ID in states. It did all these other things. Democrats, they don't like to talk about that stuff's in there, too. You can by the way, the great thing here is you don't have to take my word for it. You can put in For the People Act of 2019, pull up the legislation yourself and read it, or just go to Wikipedia, put in For the People Act, and it gives a pretty good breakdown of it, but Wikipedia doesn't actually point out the requirements for the Voting Rights Act and prohibitions on retrogression mean you can't get rid of existing Democratic districts. You can only get rid of Republican districts. That's the Democrat sleight of hand. Gavin Newsom says California is going to go full steam ahead with redistricting. Now, they're not going to wait on Texas. Keep in mind, Texas has not actually redistricted. Texas says they're going to redistrict, but they got to figure out how to get the Democrats back. And then there would be a court fight. They say that they're going to do it. They just haven't. So now Texas says it's going full steam ahead. Now, you should know there's polling out today in California. Polling out today says that if Gavin Newsom does attempt to amend the Constitution in California to go back to partisan gerrymandering, the voters will kill it. 64% of California voters say, nope, we don't want to go back to partisan gerrymandering. He's going to try it anyway. That's what the Democrats do. When they don't get their way, they try to change the rules. And what they do is they try to prevent the Republicans from doing the same thing. And they claim they're fair, and they have a media that echoes their claims, but their claims are based on lies. If we did nonpartisan redistricting across the country, Democrats would lose 50 seats in Congress. That's not me. That's the nonpartisan analyses that have said this. Now, let me tell you about Americans for Prosperity, because they're advancing common sense conservative reforms across the country. They'd love to have you on their team. Right now, they're doing a one big step campaign. Oh, what is the name of it? Hang on a second. Now I can't remember it. Essentially, they want to get you involved in advocating for the founding principles in the country, and they would love to get you involved. Ronald Reagan said freedom's never more than a generation away from extinction. If we didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream, it's got to be fought for, protected, and handed to them to do the same. Well, with our 250th birthday coming up next year, Americans for Prosperity is launching a bold campaign called One Small Step. It kicks off with the 250,000 Steps for Freedom Challenge. You can take meaningful steps towards a more perfect union. You can learn what those are and how to get involved by going to AFPvolunteer.com. Listen, AFP is a conservative organization. They advance common sense conservative reforms, but this is bigger than conservative principle. This is about the country. This is about our founding principles. This is about our values. If you're listening right now and you're progressive, go check it out as well. See what you can do. One small step, 250,000 steps for freedom. Seek the welfare of the community in which you're in. Be a part of AFP, seeking the welfare of your community, committing yourself to the founding principles. We improve the country by improving our communities. Go to AFPvolunteer.com today. The website is AFPvolunteer.com. Go check out this new campaign, 250,000 Steps for Freedom Challenge. See how you can play a role in it. See how you can volunteer. See how you can make the nation better and fight for freedom. AFPvolunteer.com. I was not going to talk about this right now, but my buddy Jared just sent me this. This is way too good not to share with you guys. Good gracious. A backseat passenger in an F-15D Eagle belonging to the 104th Fighter Wing accidentally ejected from the aircraft while it was on the ground. At Barnes Air National Guard Base in Westfield, Massachusetts, an undated video posted on social media shows the aftermath of the incident. A puff of smoke is seen wafting from the back seat as the F-15 is still taxiing. The canopy, having been blown off during the ejection sequence, is lying on the Eagle's left wing. The passenger is crawling next to the runway, next to what looks like a parachute, as the F-15 rolls past him. It's a near 0-0, no speed, no altitude ejection, which has obviously its own added dangers, but it's not the first time somebody on a ride-along inadvertently punched out of the jet, but it's kind of rare. Now they've got the we now have the air traffic control, and now the 104th Fighter Wing. They've released a statement. A ground mishap involving two members of the fighter wing occurred at 2:05 p.m. At Barnes Air National Guard Base, August 12th, 2025, safety is our highest priority, and as a precaution, one service member was transported to hospital for evaluation, and wing leadership initiated a safety stand-down. The other service member was released from the scene. Neither sustained injuries. The incident remains under investigation, and more information, including information compiled by the applicable investigation boards, will be released. Buddy, literally in the back of an F-15, he's like, what does this do? Oh my gosh. Wow. Someone accidentally ejected himself from the back of a fighter jet while it was on the ground. No, I didn't intend to. Honestly, this was not on my radar, and I wasn't going to talk about it. And I'm like, this is just too good not to share with you guys. Now, here's what I was going to talk about. The Toronto Film Festival has decided to cancel a showing of the documentary The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue. Now, what was it about? It's a documentary about the rescue of people taken by Hamas on October 7th. It's about the Hamas terror attack at the music festival. Why is it being canceled? I read you this now. Organizers of the Toronto International Film Festival rescinded the invitation to show the documentary The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue about the October 7, 2023 Hamas terror attacks at its upcoming festival, citing the use of Hamas footage of the attacks that has not been cleared for use by the terror group. Yeah, the dead air there is my brain exploding. Because Hamas has not approved the use of the footage that Hamas released to the public of the terror attack, Hamas has not approved its use in this documentary showing the barbarous nature of the Hamas attack. They've canceled the showing of the documentary. In other news, the Germans have asked everyone to take down pictures of the Holocaust because the Nazis have not given permission for the use. Good Lord, these people are insane. When we come back, yes, it's time to talk about crime in Washington, including amazing audio from Joe Biden that was uncovered yesterday.